Just visit the new CalgaryHerald.com with more of everything worth knowing.
Well, I think it's pretty simple. You go back to that game on November 7th at Mosaic Stadium when Calgary lost 30-14 on the scoreboard, their worst loss of the season against the Rough Riders. But in fact, they did a lot of things really, really well in that game. They dominated on defense in the second half. They won the time of possession. They had more first downs, more yardage than the Riders. They just couldn't put the ball in the end zone. So I think that's the key for the Stampeders on Sunday. If they can put the ball in the end zone and do all the other things that they did in that November 7th game, I think they'll be fine.
Key players like Henry Burris are going to have to take a key role.
Absolutely, and you know, big games like this is where big players have to be big players, and Henry Burris is the man on offense for the Stampeders. It's funny because they've done everything they've wanted to with Joffrey Reynolds against the Rough Riders this year. 3 games over 100 yards, and yet no wins. So that tells me that Henry Burris has got to step up his game on Sunday, because clearly the running game has worked and that hasn't been enough. So yeah, Joffrey Reynolds has to find a way, has to be consistent, has to put the blinders on and the ear muffs on so he blocks out that crowd, and I think he's a big key to this game.
The kicking game will also be key.
Yeah, Sandro DeAngelis, I mean, it just nails in every situation. He missed a field goal of the last game in there that I know frustrates him to no end, but particularly in the playoffs when teams are a little more reluctant to take chances, that puts the onus on the kickers to deliver in the clutch, and we saw what Sandro can do in the Grey Cup last year.
Who will be Henry Burris's #1 target?
Well, you'd like to think Romby Bryant is the guy. Romby Bryant has been terrific since he got here, gotten better every game. But that game in Regina, just 1 catch for 27 yards. I thought Omar Morgan, Saskatchewan's defensive back, did a really nice job on him. But he did it by playing well off him, giving him a 20-yard cushion at times and daring Romby Bryant to beat him deep. And, well, you're just not going to beat him deep when he does that. So I think they have to find some different ways to get Romby Bryant open and maybe get Omar Morgan a little closer to him so that later in the game maybe that deep ball is available to Romby Bryant.
Does that put extra pressure on Tim O'Neill?
Tim O'Neill at center has had a terrific year coming in for Rob Lazio. I like what he's done. He just doesn't faze him at all. I don't think he's an issue whatsoever. Yeah, you miss Rob Lazio at center, kind of anchoring that offensive line, but Tim O'Neill has done his job every time he's been in there.
We've only been talking about half the game. What about on D?
Well, Darian Durant, you know, he's been inconsistent at times against other teams, but wow, against Calgary he has been terrific. And you know, the last game Calgary had him a couple times in the backfield for sacks, but couldn't bring him down, and they've got to bring him down when they get the shots at him. They did have 2 sacks, but as Shannon James said the other day, they had some almost sacks, and they got to turn those almost sacks into sacks, because if they can get pressure on him consistently, maybe the Darian Durant who threw 20-plus interceptions during the regular season comes out. But until they do that, well, he's going to be the guy who threw 8 touchdowns and just 1 interception against the Stamps this year.
Maybe people can hear, we are in the middle of a very noisy stadium. The sound's been pumped in this week. Tell me about Taylor Field.
Yeah, I mean, what more do you need to say? It's loud. Yeah, but Nick Lewis was saying the other day, how much louder can they make it? They've been in there when it's sold out a few times, and they've heard it at its loudest. So I don't think anything that happens on Sunday will catch the Stampeders by surprise. It's going to be loud. They know that. They've prepared for it all week.